Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show. Hi Confidants, I just want to tell you about a book that I've written called Fool Me Twice. It's my memoir and it's a story of how I was scammed and assaulted while online dating. It was a difficult book to write because I really had to overcome the shame of my choices. But I wanted to do it so that I could help other people not get caught in the same trap that I was. At the end of the book, there are a whole lot of suggestions of what people need to look out for and how they can date safely online. My book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online, and it's also in Hong Kong bookstores. Here is a promo for my book. I hope you enjoy it.
From life on a farm in rural Australia, where wide open spaces made a young woman yearn to know what was beyond her country town. She moved to the city, became a mother, and found her dream career which took her across the world. But still, something was missing. In her search for love, she traveled far, trusted deeply. She wanted so badly to find someone that she almost lost herself in the process, and learned some hard lessons along the way. Fool Me Twice, a new memoir by Jules Hannaford. Available on Amazon.
Today I'm here with Aisling McDonald. Hi Aisling, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you here. I've been reading your blog and I think it's absolutely hilarious, and it's called Bumbling Tinder Girl or Bumbling Tinder?
Yeah, Bumbling Tinder.
But I call you the Bumbling Tinder Girl.
That's nice.
And that will be the title of this episode. Aisling, how long have you been single?
I've been single for about 6.5, nearly 7 years.
Okay, and how long have you been in Hong Kong?
Nearly 7 years.
Oh, well, surprise, surprise. Yeah. Hong Kong is not the easiest place to date. It's not, is it?
No.
You're obviously by your accent from Ireland.
Yes, I'm from Ireland.
And did you come from Ireland straight to Hong Kong?
Yeah, I did. Recession struck and I lost all my jobs. So I came
all
to
my
Hong
jobs?
Kong.
How many did you have?
I had 3.
Oh, holy, what?
Yeah, I know.
And how many do you have now?
I have 1.
Oh, you underachiever.
Crazy.
Oh, I know. So anyway, so you got to Hong Kong. Give me a little insight into your early dating history and how you ended up deciding to write this blog.
Okay, so I came to Hong Kong and then found it quite difficult to meet people in general, not just guys, like people, friends or anybody. And I lived in Kowloon for the first 3 months of my time here. And
that was your first mistake.
I know. Near Chuen Wan. Yes,
okay.
It wasn't very
Just
nice.
for the listeners overseas, that's much more of a Chinese area and there's not so many expats there.
Yeah, I was definitely the only white person. It was prior to my job, I worked all over Hong Kong. And then I met like someone that I worked with and they suggested that I should move to Lama. So then I moved to Lama and then I met like loads of friends. It was great. And one of those friends suggested I should join Tinder about 4 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, and Tinder's only been going for 4 or 5 years, hasn't it? Not for long. So you're straight in there, and I have to say, so was I. And we've both got our own disaster stories, but this is about you.
Yeah, so many.
You started dating on Tinder. When did you decide to do the Bumbling Tinder blog?
I only started the blog like last April. I decided to do the blog just because everyone was like, these stories are ridiculous and I can't believe these things happen to you. You should write them down. And then I went to Nha Trang, which is in Vietnam, for a holiday over Easter. It's not a very nice place.
Oh, isn't it?
No.
I'll mention that to my friend who's thinking of going there.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not, the flights are cheap, but it's not that great. And I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do here? So then I started writing the blog there while I was on holiday on the beach.
How has it been received?
It's been received really well, actually. I've started many writing projects over the course of my life. I never really finished any of them. So this is like a good way to get confidence because people have been like loving it and being so nice about it and like, can't believe that happened to you and really responding well to the stories. And like their friends have commented on it and messaged me and stuff, said like, that's so funny. And I think
that's
great.
been
responded. Yeah.
Yeah, your writing is hilarious. I find you very, very funny. And it's so enjoyable to read about these awkward or desperate or negative moments with a humorous twist on them.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really cool. Do you have any idea how many readers you have?
I think like on a good day, like 100 people, there'll be 100 clicks.
Oh,
because it's on WordPress, so they give you statistics. But yeah.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me about your best online date.
My best online date was like a series of dates. And that was with a guy. Oh, I decided I'd keep him anonymous because we're still friends.
Okay, cool. We'll call him Henry.
Yeah, I called him Charming, I think, in the blog.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Charming.
Yeah. And he was wonderful. And like, that's the one I wrote. I think it's like called it, There Are Wonderful Moments as well. And he inspired that blog.
Would you say that he's perhaps the most normal or the nicest of the men that you've dated?
Yeah, the most engaging, the most interactive.
And how many dates did you have with him before you decided to go down the friend route?
7. And then he moved to Singapore and he wanted me to move with him. Yeah, it was like intense quite fast towards the end.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, no way.
Why wouldn't you move to Singapore? Was it a little bit too quick, 7 dates?
Yeah, and then also just like, I wouldn't want to give up my whole life here just for a guy to move to Singapore. And then he was like, he earns a lot more money than me. He was a lawyer, so he earns way more money than me. So he said like, oh, I can just like, cover your living expenses, like, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, it's like,
I can hear single girls all over the world screaming, no,
yeah,
what are you doing?
With her? Yeah. But I was like, no, it's not really worth it, is it? Like, what if I moved, like gave up everything here and moved there? And then it was a complete disaster.
And it's always a risk, isn't it, that can happen?
And I mean, 7 dates, anyone can be nice and normal for 7 dates.
Yes, if they try very hard and the dates are short.
Exactly.
Oh, that was quite funny.
It was funny.
Yeah, thanks. You feel free to use that. You can have that. Do you have any regrets about not following through with that? Was that the right move for you?
Absolutely, it was the right move. I mean, there have been moments when I've been like, why? When I'm swiping through these stupid apps and I'm like, oh gosh, I should have just done that. But no, it's absolutely was the right move. We haven't, like, we've kept marginally in contact, but like, we're not like BFFs or anything. So I don't think it would have gone the distance.
So we can really reveal his real name.
Imagine.
Oh, perhaps not. Sorry. Charming. Okay. So Charming was all right.
Yeah.
Tell me one of your worst experiences. Like, I don't know which category you want to go into, like the most disgusting or the most scary or the most frightening or the most hilarious or the most ridiculous. You pick.
I think the worst date and the funniest date for everyone else. I mean, it wasn't very funny for me. I called it, there were bleak moments for sure, I think is what it's called. And it was with a guy called Mustafa. And I went to university to meet him. And it's also actually my most read blog also. Most read blog post. People seem to find that one hilarious. So.
Oh, okay. Is that one you're going to read to us today?
I'll read like a section of it.
Okay, great.
It's really
all right.
quite long.
Okay, well, we'll leave the listeners hanging on for a minute and we'll come back to that. Fantastic. You're so funny if you write. That kind of sort of self-deprecating humor, is that just normally part of your personality? It kind of seems like it is, having known you for 7 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, it is. I definitely write the way I speak.
So you're not trying to be funny, you're just writing and it's turning out to be funny?
Yeah, luckily.
Oh, that's really cool. So have you thought about going into stand-up comedy?
No,
okay, we'll chat about that later. We can work on some goals. I'll give you some coaching.
Great, sounds awesome.
Tell me about your first impressions of Tinder and Bumble and the swiping and the whole thing. And was it addictive for you?
When the app was first set up for me, when Tinder was first set up for me, a guy friend did it. And he definitely was getting more out of the app than I was. He was really enjoying it, like swiping and matching. He'd be like, it's a match. Like it was a big game. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then these guys would message me after he'd been messaging them. And they'd like ask to arrange to meet up. And I'd be like, oh, I can't, I'm busy. And then he'd see my phone and read the app and be like, why didn't you meet up with Oliver? He's so hot. And I was like, I want to get killed by one of these random Tinder strangers. Because, it was at the start and there were so many stories like that. And like my mom was saying to me, like, did you read the story about that girl in Dublin and all these kinds of things? So I was like very apprehensive. And then once I did take ownership of it, which was about a year later, I would say, because I would just like, because the app can randomly choose photos for you from Facebook, I would just do that, or I'd let someone else choose them. And I wouldn't really be choosing photos for myself or anything. Then when I did start taking ownership for it, it can get a bit addictive, but also it's just a ridiculous thing to do, isn't it? Like swiping on these photos of people with absolutely no background. Like most of the guys that I've like really connected with in the course of my life have not been attractive in like the conventional sense. The swiping on them, I probably would have never swiped on them. And like now you're expected to just swipe on a photo and then expect this instantaneous and amazing match. It's
so unrealistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It works for some, doesn't it?
It still blows my mind. Yeah, it does.
It does. I've got friends who have married through Tinder.
Yeah, same, like engaged.
I hate them all
for a long time. Because like it can happen. It can, maybe for some people.
So you were switched on enough to know that there were people out there who were just after sex or weren't even real or were perhaps scammers. Did you know all that in the beginning?
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Great. Okay.
I discovered it through my many disastrous days.
Oh, brilliant. So what sort of things have you come across in the sort of negative? Like, have you been scammed? Have you been deceived? Have people used the wrong photos? What else?
Yes. People have used the wrong photos for me for sure. There's like one guy that photoshopped his photos. And then when I met him in real life, the only thing that you could recognize of him was his eyes. And the rest of him was completely different.
Did you say anything?
Yeah, I was like, what? And I went to Chung Kwan O to meet him as well, which was even random. I don't know why I went there.
Is that out by the Chinese border?
I don't even know. It's like on the purple line. Purple's my favorite color. Maybe that's why I was like, okay, let's go there. And we went to like this awful restaurant and he was like, you don't seem very happy. And I was like, well, you don't look the same. And it's a superficial app, basically. And then like I wolfed on my food and I was like, see you later. He said, but I've got a room booked upstairs. And like the audacity to have like, booked a hotel room. I mean, just that alone is bad. But when you don't even look like what you've been pretending to be looking like for all these weeks we've been messaging.
Did you feel unsafe at any time there or you just got out?
No, I didn't feel unsafe there. I just got out. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
just like, bye. And then ran down the escalator.
I had one date where I sat down and had a drink with this guy, got halfway through my drink and just said, sorry, this isn't working. Here's the money for my drink and left. Like it was literally about 7 minutes. I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah. A friend of mine has a theory that you should just meet for coffee.
Yes. Don't meet
like
for
an
dinner
or like a little latte or something. Then you're just not wasting any time.
Yes, and you're not stuck with a 3-course meal in some really ritzy restaurant that you've dressed up for and spent a fortune on your clothes and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Hilarious. What other sort of things did you learn through the online dating about what could go wrong?
Profile pictures, for sure. I would say if you're a guy, ask a girl for advice in the photos and vice versa. Because I remember there was like, I'd changed my profile pictures on Tinder. Then all of a sudden I started getting like all these like really sexually explicit messages, like guys asking me for head and wanting to wank on my face and all like just out of the blue, like loads of messages. And nearly every guy I matched with was sending me messages like that. And I was like, it's so weird.
Did you put a topless photo up?
Not topless. I was showing a friend of friends. He was looking through it and he's like, oh yeah, normal. Oh, no makeup pic. That's nice. And he's like, oh, this pic. This is the pic, and in the picture, I'm wearing like a beanie, but I'm looking up, and I think like, oh, look at my eyes, they look amazing, because it did. I was wearing like fake eyelashes, and I had like gems in them and stuff. But he said that's like a wank on my face pic.
Oh, right.
I think that would be a wank on your face pic, like with your eyes closed, not wanting it anywhere near you. But apparently, if you look all like cute and innocent with your eyes big and looking up, that's a wank on your face pic.
Good to know. Good to know. I hope people out there are taking notes and then go back and check your profile pictures and make sure that they're okay, La. Yeah. And what about guys' photos? What have you noticed with men's photos? What do you think works and what doesn't?
I think if you've got a picture with a tiger, like a drugged up tiger, that really gets on my nerves.
Terrible,
I mean, like, what are
it?
you doing? Like, or sitting on an elephant for that matter. That, or just like, you know, the usual gym selfies, like standing in front of the mirror with your phone. Like, who takes their phone to the gym to take selfies? Like, I would hate if someone took a photo of me in the gym, like looking all red and puffy and sweaty. You know, like, it's not like a time that I really want to be photographed. So I don't like those kind of photos.
And you can tell when they've put up ones that are kind of stolen from hot models, can't you?
Yeah, expose midriff and that's
Does it look a little bit like Jackie Chan because they are Jackie Chan or whatever? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what do people
Crazy.
think? Oh, I'm going to put up a picture of Will Smith and no one will recognize that it's not Will Smith.
But my roommate, that did happen to her one time. She was like, oh, like I've matched with this guy, but he looks really familiar. She's like flicking through and I was like, because that's Robert Downey Jr. That's why he looks familiar. And she's like, what? He's Robert Downey Jr. I was like, oh my God, he's an actor.
She didn't know who he was, but he was somewhat familiar. That's brilliant.
Like recognized.
So so you ruined her life because she thought she got this hottest guy ever that she'd matched with and she was going to go meet him. Well done, Aisling.
But imagine going to meet him. Like, how are you going to pick him out? You know, it's not like wearing a red rose and like a pocket square, you know?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Have you had any guys that have been like, oh, yeah, I'm looking for love, blah, 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 and then you match and then you chat and then you're like, okay, let's meet, because it makes sense to meet because you can't tell if you're connecting with somebody online, can you?
Yeah, you really can't.
And then they're like, oh, I'm leaving Hong Kong tomorrow, but I'll be back in 3 months.
Yeah, always happens. Like all these like transient travelers that come through, like, oh, I'm looking for a relationship and I love you so much. Then you meet up and they're like, just going to Southeast Asia for 3 months, but I'll come back. And I think, no, you won't.
Yeah.
You won't come back. You'll have no money. Hong Kong is expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And you're a backpacker.
Yeah.
But do you get guys that as soon as you mention meeting, they're not available? Like they're not real?
Yeah, I think sometimes like you're definitely talking to bots. Like, but to be honest, when I'm making my matches, I'll match with one person and I'll chat to him only. I won't like talk to multiple people, mostly because I just don't have the capacity to keep up with like all these different guys. So I'll just talk to one at a time. But I think that puts me at a definite disadvantage. Because, you know, then like you are investing your time in one person where he's probably talking to like 15 million girls or whatever. And then like when you meet up with them, you're doubly disappointed because you're like, should have matched with the other one, or he was my favorite for today, but maybe the other guy was nicer, blah, blah.
That's the joys of youth. See, at my age on Tinder, you're lucky if you get one match a month. And then they're not real. And they're after your money.
Yeah.
And never mind. What are your goals for app dating?
I think initially my goals were definitely to meet people from around the world and make all these nice connections. And then somewhere in the midst of that, around this time last year, I got lost in that. And I was like, no, I want to meet my person. And I think that's too much pressure to put on yourself because then you get like proper sad when you meet douchebag after douchebag and things are going abysmally wrong all the time. So I decided to just go back to that, like meet all these people from around the world and see what they're like and meet interesting people to try not to have expectations.
Have you changed the way you swipe then from the beginning where it was just hot guy after hot guy? Are you sort of like, okay, you've got a bit of a mullet?
Sometimes, but then often when you do swipe on those, it's not a match. And then you're like, what?
I'm not good enough for you.
Not even that attractive. How did this happen?
That's brilliant.
Mean, but it's true.
It's terrible. And so would you be looking for a long-term partner? Or my understanding is that for younger people, it's a culture of hookup culture for online dating. Would you say that's true? Even though the ones that I know that are married are still young.
I think it can be true. I think it depends on who you ask. For me, it's definitely not just about hooking up because who can be bothered? Like it is awkward and fumbling and horrible, right? When you have like these one night stands or these short-lived sexual chemistry things. I would say like, yeah, looking for a long-term thing, but also trying not to put the pressure on it, trying to like trick myself almost. Next day, so if you're not looking, then you'll find it. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, but in the supermarket.
Yeah. But also I just don't see how realistic it is to find someone on these apps. Like even just, I went on a date last week with this guy and we were messaging for only 3 days. You know, the power of your imagination is such that they're like all of a sudden this dream boat and they're not messaging you saying good morning. They're like, good morning. You know, like thinking that they're saying it so sweetly and they're only thinking about you and your imagination just works overboard. And then when you meet them, and like I did this guy, and he sucked. Like he was so boring. Chain smoker, referred to Chinese people as chinks a few times, called me a paddy. And I was like, okay, I need to go. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I can't do this. And he was like, oh, let's just give it another go. Like the messages were so good. And it's like, oh, in hindsight, they were just normal messages, you know? Whereas before you meet them, you have so much expectation and it can be anything.
But this is the thing. Some people can write brilliantly and then they just can't speak.
And you're like, what happened?
I know. Or they're getting their mum to do it.
Yeah. I did go on a date
once. Their intelligent mate at uni. Uh-oh. I can feel criticism coming.
Sorry. I did go on a date once where the guy said that he Googled his answers to me, which was interesting. Because I was like, wow, you're like so fascinating in message and so dull in person.
Did you say that to him?
Poor guy. He was like, yeah, well, I just Googled my replies to you. And I was like, what? And then I was trying to see, but then I probably wasn't noticing, like, because if you're Googling an answer, you got to filter down through, right? And find the one that you want to say. I don't know. So people are saying, like, for one of my blog posts, I should just like Google a conversation with myself. Maybe I should. Like, hey, how are you? Google says, fine.
I'm fine. Ask Siri.
Yeah. It's so weird.
That's brilliant. I think it's hilarious that he told you that.
I know.
That's
like,
even
well,
funnier.
least, yeah.
What do you think about dating in Hong Kong? Do you think it's harder here, or do you think it would be the same all around the world, that it's quite difficult to meet people on these apps in this sort of superficial manner?
I absolutely think it's more difficult in Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong has a high ratio of douchebags, but also it has a high ratio of like people that aren't really looking for anything serious and think that they're like this god because they just came to Asia and they're like, they can shag everything that moves, they think. Or they just got here and they're like, oh, I'm not into anything serious. Like all these ridiculous things. Because I was just in America over Christmas and I had loads of matches and it was a lot easier and it was with genuine people, not like, your stereotypical people that like are douchebags.
Yeah. And there's a lot of sort of fake superficiality, isn't there, in the whole dating scene in Hong Kong? Or it's just, for some reason, it's really hard.
Yeah, it's so difficult. I think
especially for women.
I think a lot of it is about money. Like guys seem to think that that's the be all and end all, that they've got like this fabulous job. And it's like, yeah, but you've got no personality to go with it. I don't know who hired you. But like...
They should be fired.
Yeah, exactly. You can't even hold a conversation. And then then there's other people who are either looking for their rich spouse, they want you to be earning loads of money and I don't. Like a lot of it's based around money and different expectations.
Would you say that people actually ask you about how much you earn on dates?
I think indirectly they definitely do. Like, what do you work as?
And right. You say, I'm a teacher. And they're just like, oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. You suck. Yeah. You're not on a high
I'm looking
salary.
for a banker. You're a lawyer, you're a doctor. Get out.
Yeah. And then guys will say it the same. Like any guys that I've spoken to are like, if I say like, oh, like, how are you? What do you work as? A few guys have been like, I'm not telling you what I work as. You should really be interested in who I am. And it's like, well, for me, a large part of who I am is a teacher, like my school calendar, my social events, a lot of them are dictated by my easy schedule, like I finish work earlier. So I do want to know what people work as, not to determine if they're going to like build me a round castle somewhere,
Cut that out of your diary.
Yeah, exactly.
Strike that.
Yeah. This one's not the one.
Oh, that's hilarious. Do you have any thoughts on having sex on the first date? And do you feel like that's an expectation on Tinder dates in your demographic?
I think it is an expectation on the dates, especially like, sometimes you'd be messaging away and the conversation gets a little bit heated, especially in the guy's end. And then they'll send like a wee dick pic or something.
A wee dick pic. Just a little one.
It's like, oh, great. And then I'll normally message and go, don't have any expectations. Like, it's entirely unrealistic to have expectations. And I know like we'll all still have some, but you shouldn't be expecting sex of a stranger. Or like some guys would go like, let's meet up for a shag. And it's like, what? Maybe some people can just turn it on and I'm just weird. But I can't just be like, oh, hello, bam, let's go. I've tried and it just always ends in disaster.
So you've got to have that mind connection.
Yeah, I do, for sure.
And what about the physical attraction? What's more important, the mind connection or the physical attraction?
The mind connection for me, for sure, which is why these apps for me are ridiculous because I should probably just be swiping on everyone and separating them out based on messages or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like make them send me like a 3-minute clip describing themselves.
Yeah, not the dick pic. Oh, that's so funny. What do girls think of dick pics? Tell me.
I mean, I had like a really great collection actually of dick pics. I used to save them and
the
use
other
them.
joys of youth. I think I've had two.
There was one that was just off, like it'd been grated. Like it was just so appalling.
What do you mean, on a cheese grater?
Yeah, like all around the side just looked so gross. And I used to show that quite regularly actually to people, be like, as if you could send dick pics and I'd be like, look at this. And they'd be like, like proper gagging. It was so gross. I wonder if I could still find it. It was so gross.
We can put that on social media to advertise this podcast.
Yeah.
I think it might be my highest rating podcast.
The Grated Dick.
The Grated Dick. That could be the title. It's too funny. I can't believe you've had so many dick pics.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like my opinion on dick pics is if you're going to send me a dick pic, I have at least have had to have met you and the dick and experienced some pleasure from it. Like, if you're just sending me this ugly, veiny nastiness, I'm not really going to be like, oh yeah.
Do guys not realize that they're actually dicks aren't that kind of fun to look at, or they don't really turn us on?
Yeah.
Do they know that?
I think for guys, because they're always like, oh, I love boobs. Like, maybe they'd be just as happy with like a boob pic and they think it's great, but it's like, it's not really the same. Boobs are pretty, you know? Like,
but maybe it's what it comes down to is guys are visual and women want the intellectual connection.
Actually.
And have you heard the saying that women have sex to get love and men love to get sex?
Oh, I haven't heard that. That's
there you go. You can use that too. You're welcome.
I should have brought a notebook.
You don't even have to copyright me. Luckily, you can listen to it again later. You should do stand-up. This is a great stand-up routine. You don't even need me there. You can cut me out. I wish my eyes weren't so teared up from the laughing and I could maybe read my questions. How important is it to trust your intuition on these dates or even in the swiping messaging process?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like, intuition is important. And especially if you're going to meet a stranger, you know, that stranger could be anybody. And for you as well, like everyone should be careful on these apps. I haven't had any like in-person scary moments, but I did have like a guy that I was swiping on the ferry back to time when I lived there. And then we made a match. And while I was on the ferry, we were chatting like small talk. And then he was like, can I have your phone number? And I was like, yeah. And then I met someone for a glass of wine, as was always the way when I lived on Lama. You know, having a drink after work. And then
I live on Lama, everyone. What are you saying?
And then anyway, I went home like a bit later and then made dinner and had a shower and just completely forgot about this guy, Sam. And he'd sent me like 37 messages and it started with a flaccid dick pic and then was like, don't do me like the other girls. Like, you need to understand, I didn't mean it, like weird apologies, and then got really angry. And I was just like, wow. And I just replied saying like, nah, or something. Even if I did reply, maybe I just immediately blocked him. Then I woke up the following morning, there's like loads of messages on my Facebook, which is why my name on Facebook is in Gaelic and why I changed the security settings. So no one can really message me just unless we have like a friend in common saying like, oh, I Googled you. Like, it's easy to find people with your unique name. I'm going to wait for you outside your work.
You had a stalker.
Yeah, nearly. But luckily I told my work and they were really understanding. They're like, you leave early, like for the next week. Because I think he's only here for a week. So they're like, let me leave early for a week. So then I was like really freaked out. Because I was like, well, wait outside my work and do what? Like,
yeah.
It was so weird. Apologize for the dick pic or maybe look at the dick. Like, does it revolve around the dick? What's going to happen?
Oh my gosh. So that's quite stressful. So did you get a little bit anxious and worried in all that, or were you sort of okay?
I mean, it was good to finish work half an hour early, which is the obvious plus side. And then I didn't see him. So I don't know, maybe he was on drugs or drunk or something and just said that. I hope. I don't know.
Yes.
Like,
hopefully he was off his face. In his
give him a
stalking.
chance to redeem himself or anything.
Did that make you become more safe in your Tindering, or did you just carry on?
I mean, in my Tindering anyway, normally I would message someone, like any date that I'll go on, I'll message and go like, yo, I'm meeting this guy. This is what it looks like. We're meeting here.
Who would you say that to?
Like my friend Kate, or
yes.
I would say 90% of the time it's Kate, or has been roommates and stuff in the past as well.
Yes.
Normally someone would know. I would say 90% of the time people will know.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Like, it's just dating, online dating 101. Like, tell
stranger
people.
danger.
Yeah, stranger danger. Tell people where you're going. Meet in a public place. Make sure you give them every detail you can. And do you always make sure that you either Skype with these people first or FaceTime, or do you Google them?
Oh, no, I don't.
Oh, that's a tip.
Some more tips.
So I wrote a book called Fool Me Twice, where I was scammed and injured online dating.
Oh
It's my
gosh.
memoir. So I think just to be safe, you should read that book because there's a whole lot of online dating safety tips at the end, red flags, and what to do in an emergency.
Oh, wow. I did actually buy it. It's on my Kindle as we speak.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So feel free to quote me in any of your blogs.
Oh, well.
What would be your top tips for online dating?
I would say like from the swiping or just meeting them.
Both.
From the swiping, I would say like try and avoid the ones with tigers. They're probably going to be a bit of a dick. Like if they're lying beside a drugged up tiger, that's not a good look. Also, if it's just a picture of their torso,
They're
or,
married.
like, their collarbone, yeah, they're married, right? Like there's so many photos like that.
I know.
Just like
guys
a
with a
1 minute-
hat down over their nose and,
Yeah.
it's like they're married.
Yeah. Definitely married. Or like if they've only got one profile picture, I would say that's another, and one picture, that's definitely another
That's a fake.
no-go. Because
Yeah.
that could be a fake pixelated photo, or could just be again that he's married and wants to go like, oh, it was my friend that set up the account, you know? And you don't know what these married situations do. You don't know. Yeah, sure, they're married and you might end up inadvertently like being their mistress or having sex with them once. But then maybe their wife is going to be crazy and like try and ruin your life, or, you know, like you don't know the repercussions of these things. Like, God, there's so many horror stories out there. And then with meeting, I would say, yeah, definitely message someone and tell them where you're going, what they look like, maybe a photo of them. They should have a photo. If they don't have a photo, don't meet them.
My advice is Skype with them, but after Aisling reads my book, she'll be more au fait with these safety tips.
Yeah. And then like when you are going to meet them, make sure it is somewhere that's public, like where there are other people around, just in case. And also for your own sense of security. Oh, another one is like, don't feel bad about walking away. I remember at the start in particular, I'd stay on these awful dates.
Be so polite, yeah.
Yeah, and be like, I didn't know how to get out of them. And then one time I had a date in the Globe. Accidentally, like he came, I told him to come because I was with friends. And then I ran away from him. And my friend George was so angry. He was like, can't believe you ran away from him. And I was like, it's not my fault. We weren't connecting. But there's obviously a nicer way to do it than to just clean run down the street. But yeah, I would say like, don't feel embarrassed if it's not working, but maybe do try and deliver it in a nicer way than just legging it up the stairs away from them. Like,
or excusing yourself to the toilet and never returning.
Yeah.
But I think that you do need to think about having a get out of it strategy.
Yeah, for sure.
I usually have a friend of mine text me at some point early, you know, in the first half an hour. Oh, my friend's had a disaster. I'm sorry, I've got to go.
Yeah, see, I'm not really good at lying. So I did try that with that guy that I ran away from in the Globe. And I was like, went outside with my friend Kate and I was like, how am I going to get out of this? And she's like, oh, I'll just say that your roommate messaged and then we'll leave. So she did say that. She was like, oh, Lee messaged, like he forgot his keys. And I was like, oh, no way. And then we got
really bad acting.
Like, let's get the bill. And then I just got the bill, put my credit card down, paid for everything, and then just ran away because I was like, he's going to know I'm lying. So embarrassing.
So lying doesn't work for you. So you just have to be rude.
Yeah, so like, bye.
Yeah, see ya, I'm done. Do you have a couple of your blogs here that you can read for us?
I do.
Okay, awesome. So give us a little sort of rundown. Are we going to hear something positive or negative?
Actually, I spoke about both of them, so maybe I should change them now.
Oh, no, that's okay. We didn't go into Mustafa.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That one's really long, so I'll just read like a paragraph of it.
Okay.
It's quite long, and I don't know if people are going to want to listen to it.
Okay.
Okay. It's called There Were Some Bleak Moments for Sure. He began his food preparations, and so as to not leave me hungry, he produced a somewhat battered pear from his bag for me to eat. Yep, you guessed it. I also hate pears. I assured him I could wait for dinner. He put a number of things into his pot and then came to sit on the bed. He continually tried to get me to sit beside him, and I continually refused. He eventually gave up asking me to sit on the bed in favor of asking me to dance to the music of his country, which I also did not do. I was going to, but he did a few sways of his hips with his hands raised in the air to this tinny music, grabbed a bulge in his trousers, and said to me, look at the effect you have on me. It's awful. Now, I have heard of people who are into being insulted as a fetish, but I've never witnessed it before. And I was being rude. He then told me he was going to get changed, which I took as a sign that he was going to slip into the bathroom to do so. I was wrong. He got undressed right there in front of me, asking me if I admired his six-pack, which was non-existent, as a guise for getting me to look at his hard-on, which I refused to lower my eyes to do so. He did get changed, somewhat grudgingly. I know you're all thinking, oh my God, why is she still there? And honestly, I do not know exactly why I stayed. What I do know was that I wasn't in any danger and I was intrigued by the dish he was creating. And also the messages prior to this was so nice that I was half thinking maybe he's just a bit socially awkward. There was no flow of conversation like there was in our messages. And it was then that it dawned on me that this was an elaborate booty call. Then I felt kind of bad for us both. None of us are going to get what we expected from this evening.
Oh.
It was true though.
That's sad.
Yeah, because it's like, no, because when you have been messaging someone for weeks or however long we were messaging for, and then you actually meet them and they suck, there is a part of you that's like, no, this can't be it.
Yes, like, yeah, your denial, it's called.
Denial.
Yeah, it's not just a river in Egypt. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And you want to give them a second chance and you want to think, oh, my instincts are off, or oh, they're having a bad day, or they've drunk too much. Maybe they're not an alcoholic. Which is what's happened to me before. That's probably chapter 22 in my book. And yeah, it can be super disappointing. And also when you're single for such a long time, sometimes it's just, oh, you know what? change of track of my thought, but I used to be super hormonal and really want to have sex till I hit menopause, and now I don't give a shit. Seriously, I couldn't care less. But before menopause or perimenopause, it was like, this is really missing from my life.
Yeah.
So I think that makes that urgency to make it happen even more. I do feel like it's partly hormonal, and now
it is.
Now it's just like, I don't care, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And when you have gone for ages without sex, it is like a pleasant surprise to actually be able to have sex with someone that's quite nice and normal.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was in LA recently, which is totally giving away my new blog post, but whatever.
This won't be out in time. I've got to edit it. Your blog will beat the podcast.
And like, I was in LA recently, and then I did meet up with a guy, and we did end up having sex because it was nice and normal. There was no expectation beforehand. We were just like messaging normally, and then we met up, and it was fine. And it was actually like great. Like, it was great sex. And he was actually really nice. And like, he was great about it all. He had like a selection of toys that he asked if I wanted to have used. He asked me like if I had any fetishes. It was almost like someone had paid for an escort. Maybe my friends have. Maybe they're like, it's been so long.
And now they're coming.
I'm thinking of it. Now that I'm speaking, it sounded too perfect.
And now they're coming around next week to help you pack to move to LA.
Yeah, and he asked me like just before about to, he was like, "Are you sure you would like to have sex?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "It's good to get consent." And I was like, "That's very see."
Oh,
it was all, yeah, maybe now that I am saying it, it sounds a bit too perfect, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? I think you better get hold of Kate's credit card statement.
But did you pay for a gigolo for me? I mean, I appreciate it. It was great.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, that's so gorgeous. And he knew you were traveling as well. So that probably took out some of the pressure as well.
Yeah, I think that's another thing as well. Like, I think when you do go on dates here and you have been single for so long, there is some sort of urgency sometimes. Like, I just want a boyfriend for a while. Like, someone to cuddle me or like make me soup when I'm sick.
Yeah, watch movies. Yeah. That's all I want now that my hormones have died.
But then it's also like, have I ever had a boyfriend that's looked after me and I've been sick? Like, I haven't. So I don't know what it is I'm looking for, like craving this thing that just doesn't exist.
Oh, that's too funny. Do you have any deal breakers in relationships?
I recently quit smoking about like 4 or 5 months ago. So
congratulations.
Smoking has become my new thing that I dislike intensely. I'm a really bad non-smoker. I don't like the smell of it or being around it.
I'm a really good non-smoker. I haven't smoked for 5 or 6 years and I quite like sitting next to the odd ciggy. I don't mind.
Yeah, for me, it's like a new thing. So I'm like, oh, it smells horrible.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, like being horrible to people in the hospitality industry. I hate it.
Massive red flag. Yeah. In my book, page something like 200 roundabout. But yes, if people are rude to people in hospitality, that's a sign that they are not a nice person.
Yeah, they're like going to be some kind of nastiness.
It's one of your first clues.
Yeah.
Because that's where you interact with them first, usually, is out and about where there are people working in hospitality. Yeah. So it's a big red flag.
Yeah, I would say that. And then what else do I know? Oh, long nails. I don't like it, like at all. Like long nails in a guy creeps me out. Like, what are you, a druid? Like, whoa, why do you have long nails? Oh, it's so creepy. Yeah, they're about it. The ones that are coming to mind right now. I'm sure
and
they're
serial
definitely
killers.
More. Yeah. And anyone that's like obviously overtly dangerous.
Yeah, forget them. Just say no to serial killers. Oh, that's brilliant. So do you have another one you can read for us? That was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, this is like the nice one. And this is called It Hasn't Been All Bad. So let me start. There have been wonderful dates also. I think a large part of my philosophy of love has been formed mainly by Disney and the Backstreet Boys. So yes, perhaps my expectations are a tad unrealistic, and perhaps that is why I'm still single as I fast approach 32. I'm actually 32 now. But perhaps foolishly, I still stick by these expectations. I want someone to feel the way for me the Backstreet Boys describe in all their songs. I want the magic of Disney encounters. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not the kind of girl that is expecting a prince to come along and take me to a wonderful new life. My life is already pretty wonderful and I won't leave all that behind, even for a prince. The offer has only really been made once, but I did refuse and I don't regret it. For the sake of privacy, I will call him charming, which he most certainly is. We had a magical first date filled with laughter, talking and sharing. I think in that night I shared more with him about my life than I have had with anyone, even over the course of years. Hopes, fears, dreams, my past. And I know that the night was pretty special for him as he also shared things. It was a night the Backstreet Boys and Disney would have been proud of. As were our subsequent dates. They were always filled with fun and laughter. He was not only charming, but sexy and generous and very caring. Obviously, it was not meant to last. We did not see each other very frequently. This to some would be awful and a sign of a lack of interest, but for me, this was perfect. As I mentioned, I cherish my free time, and yes, I know that I do need to be more flexible with it if I am to meet and keep my person. With charming, however, We met relatively infrequently, exchanged a few messages in the week, and when we did meet, it was wonderful. I think that is the winning combination for me. So very often in this technology-filled world, I'm overwhelmed at the many ways people can contact me. Phone calls, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, email, WeChat, text messages. When my favorite mode of contact is actually in writing letters or in receiving cards. I hate talking for hours on the phone. Phone calls for me are really the worst. They're so slow to start as you each think of all the things that have happened in that week or so to tell the other. Most of it is utter nonsense and things that would never be noteworthy or have mentioned in usual circumstances. Messages I have also slowly come to hate. I was all for them initially, but as time has gone by, the more I detest them. It is not the message itself, it is the expectation attached. This is the same for most modes of modern communication, but it is not true of letters. When people message you, ring you, post on your wall, it is implicit by many that you will reply. I say nay. It is lovely that people think of you, and I'm not saying I want all contact ceased, but I'd like the expectation to fade. What's charming, there was no expectation from either of us. It was the most comfortable I've ever felt in dating someone. He would message and I would reply whenever I felt it, and vice versa. It worked a charm. If we're always so available, then we do lose some of our charm and allure, I think. Or maybe it is that I'm old-fashioned. I love the days of someone ringing the house phone and being able to shake my head and whoever answered the phone would tell the caller I was not there. Same with people who came to the door. I'm a person who needs to feel ready for socializing and for talking to people. And so charming in that way was perfect. But I did it again. I went way off track. As I said, it was not meant to last. But it did not end too sadly either. He had been offered new employment opportunities. We discussed it and indeed I advised and pushed that he had to leave Hong Kong to fulfill them. He asked me to go with him, that he earned enough to take care of the two of us. Honestly, I'd always thought I'd leap at this opportunity, but instantaneously I refused. What about my job? What about my friends? What about my life? Once we were lovers, just love as we were, you and I, was as far as my Backstreet Boy tale with this guy went. And so we parted ways, and in our parted ways, and in our own ways, we live happily ever after.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's so true, isn't it? Back to the old days of when people had to ring the home phone and when there was no social media. Landscape of dating has changed dramatically in the last 10 years, hasn't it? What was dating like for you before social media?
Well, because I was in Ireland, it would always have been either someone that I knew or a friend of mine knew, or I worked in a bar, so it would be someone that I met through there. It was never like someone that I would never have seen before except for a picture. Seems so backwards in many ways. Seems like we're going backwards in time instead of forwards. I think that definitely the personal connection is definitely leaving, and it's really sad. Like even when I went home and like my friends on Tinder and I'm like, what are you on Tinder for? Like we're in our hometown. It's not massive. You could walk across to his house and knock on his door and you're swiping on him, you know? And they're like, that's just the way we do it now. And I'm like, no. It doesn't need to be that way. Like I didn't think it would be there, but it is. I suppose it's taking over everywhere.
It is, isn't it? And have you met anyone in the last 6 or 7 years out in a bar or in a club or in the supermarket or at an event?
No, not in Hong Kong. No, I haven't.
Me neither.
Yeah,
I don't
not
think.
like randomly. No.
Me neither. Isn't that tragic?
It's been all contrived.
Oh
yeah, it's quite horrible when you think of it.
6 violins in here. Goodness sakes. It's so contrived. And that's just sad, isn't it? Do you get out a lot?
Yeah, I do. I do get out a lot. I think a lot of it is in Hong Kong, we're also used to our little cliques, aren't we? It's still like, it's kind of like a secondary school kind of vibe in many ways. Like we all have like our own little groups of friends and we all just kind of stick together. It's something that I always find so strange in the bars here that people don't wander over and talk to each other. Actually, in most places, like at home, I will always say like, you'll always end up talking to somebody random. And like, and if you came back from night out and you didn't have some random story to tell, now that person might be absolutely insane and tell you all sorts of randomness about like buying turnips or like ridiculous things that you don't care about. But at least you'll have ended up talking to someone, to a new friend for the night. But here, like, it doesn't really seem to happen with guys or girls.
That's true. And there's something to be said for going out in big groups. You're much less approachable in a big group than if you're just one or two, or if you're on your own. Look a bit sad. Or 2 or 3 of you.
Yeah.
How has putting all of your experiences down out on the cyberspace, how has that impacted you on a personal level?
I think it's been like a positive impact. There are some that I still haven't written down, like ones that I still find a bit too painful to think about.
Oh, quick, can you tell me about them?
There's only really 2.
Okay, quick.
There was like one guy, Nico, and he was here traveling. And then we just like fell really hard for each other. I definitely did anyway. And he did as well, supposedly. But then it all went to shit. And it still kind of hurts me. And that was like maybe 3 years ago now. because I thought we had like such an amazing connection. And then he went off to go traveling around Southeast Asia. And then
Was he the one that promised to come back?
one of the many that promised to come back.
Now I'm making the connections.
But like he met most of my friends and everyone was like, wow, you guys are so cute together. And it was like short-lived, but it was like, it's still something like I can't really find the words to write it down and make it humorous. And I don't really like writing sad lines.
Yeah.
So when people read it.
Sure, yeah. I think when they really hit your heart and they have an impact on you and then they're gone, it can be sad, can't it?
Yeah. So it's like, oh, I don't know how to write that down.
Yeah.
Without making it sound sad.
You might need more time and space. We could just swear a bit throughout it.
Yeah, exactly.
And another one that you can't write about yet?
And that was like a date that I actually cried on.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. What happened? I mean, I don't mean great. So I'm joking. Sorry. I'm having too much fun here. Sorry, what happened?
This Canadian guy, and I met up with him, and I think it was just all the lies again. Like he'd made so many different promises, like, I don't know, before we'd even ever met, which is weird, but you know, you get all wrapped up in it, don't you? And then we actually met in person and he was totally different to his messages. But then he was also like, I can't remember what it was. I said something like referred to something he'd said in a message. He's like, oh yeah, I just kind of said that to like get you here and to meet up with you. And I was like, oh my God. And then I don't know why, but like I just started crying floods of tears. Like, I was just like, I can't believe it. But he was like, I'm so sorry I lied. And I was like, are you though? I think I must have been having an emotional time, but I don't know. I was really upset about it. I was upset about it for a few weeks after as well, actually, thinking back. I came back to my two roommates and I was like crying to them and they were like, yeah, but it's like disappointment after disappointment. And I thought maybe that's what it is, you know? And it is. Like there are times when it gets just too much.
Yes, it's tedious and you keep trying and you try to maintain hope and you don't give up. And still you just get shit after shit after shit. Let's face it. And it's just, and it can wear you down.
Yeah.
And you know, even when you're a positive person, to keep doing it over and over again and not having any success, or, you know, falling in love with Nico and he pisses off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, what the hell?
Yeah, why him?
Yeah.
Why not someone that stays here?
I know. I was dating this guy. Oh God, I hope he doesn't listen to this. He wasn't from here. We met on Tinder. He was really nice. We got on fine, but I knew there was no future in it. He had 5 kids and lived in the US and blah, 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 was divorced or whatever. And then finally he contacted me and I knew something was off because he weren't really in touch, and he told me that he'd met somebody, and I was kind of like, okay, cool. You know, I knew that would happen one day. And I said, how long have you been seeing her? And he said 2 years. I'd been seeing him for 3.
Oh my God.
It's just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, all I'd asked was for you to be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm still friends with him. Sorry if you're listening. You're fine. It's fine. I'm fine. But I'm just trying to make a point that if he'd been totally honest with me right from the get-go, that would have been absolutely fine.
Yeah,
and I would have preferred that.
Yeah. And like, you can avoid a lot of hurt, right? Like, nobody's looking for these elaborate lies. When I match with a stranger, I have zero expectation. And then when you fill me with all these ridiculous statements, and then I do start thinking like, oh, this could happen and this could happen and whatever it is, ridiculous
Do you mean like things like, I really want to find my person and that I'd love to open an orphanage in Africa?
Maybe not the orphanage in Africa, but stuff like that.
Oh, sorry, that was my life.
Yeah, or like, just like, I would like to meet someone nice to chill. Just as basic as like to meet someone nice to hang out with at the weekend.
When
and
really they just want to shag.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if you just said you just wanted to shag, you know, sometimes I am up just for the shag. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, can't really ever do it just for the shag. But you know, like,
yeah.
Sometimes it does happen on the first date where it's like, okay, this is just going to be sex and that's it. But when it's like all the lies and the elaborate storytelling, it's like, there's no need for this. We're all humans at the end of all this, regardless of the fact that I just look like a little picture. I have feelings. And I think we all forget that. Like, I treat some of these guys horribly as well, you know, because it's like, whatever, I'm never going to see him or whatever.
The one you ran away from.
Just leg it away from people.
Case in point.
He's only going to listen to this going, nah, bitch.
Nowhere I can find it. What's interesting is that they're telling elaborate stories, but now you're writing about your experience in stories, and storytelling is such a big part of our culture, or anybody's culture.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, a lot of people are getting so much out of your stories, even if it's just helping them to feel good about the disasters that they're having, because there's so many people. Do you have many friends out there who are trying to date and they're just not having success?
I have some friends who are trying to date but aren't on these apps. And I'm like, well, I don't know how you're going to ever meet someone then, which is sad as well, because you should be able to.
What, they won't use the app?
Yeah. And I think you should be able to meet someone in the conventional sense. You know, it shouldn't be in the old fashioned way of saying hello.
Yeah, but I think we've got to leave Hong Kong and go home,
yeah.
you know, if that's going to happen.
I remember when I first came here, so many people told me that, like these old women that have been here for years, they're like, oh, you'll eventually leave. go and meet your person. And I was like, no. But now it's been 6 years, nearly 7. And I'm like, I will have to leave.
Yes. And you know what?
Reality.
I'm 53 and I've been here 19 years and I've got so many friends who left because they had great jobs. They loved Hong Kong. They had a great circle of friends, but they couldn't find their person and they left and they've all met their partners and they're married and got kids and they're, you know, pretty much everybody I can think of off the top of my head has done that and they couldn't do it here.
Yeah. And it's so annoying. Yeah. It's like, God, Hong Kong could be great.
It could be amazing. Like, it could be.
It still is amazing in many ways, but it's so annoying meeting like people time after time after time. And I mean, the stories are great and I love stories, but sometimes it's like, can I just not have a story?
Yeah.
Can we just have a nice date and I have nothing to write about?
Yeah. I want my conclusion. That's brilliant.
One day.
Yeah, one day it will happen for you. And, you know, I hope you meet somebody as witty and as funny and as just absolutely charming as you are, because you're just awesome. I would date you if I was a guy.
I would date you too,
Oh,
Jess.
thanks. Even though I'm old.
Yes. Even though I'm old.
Now we wish we were lesbians.
I love hearts.
Oh, that's so funny. First of all, are you still on the apps and dating?
Yes.
Yes, you are. And you haven't given up hope there.
No, not yet.
Okay, great. What have you learnt most about yourself through all of these experiences and writing it down and sharing it with the whole world? I hate to point that out, but you have.
I think I'm more of an introvert than I ever realized. I would definitely realize that. Especially when I'm writing stuff like just like my big tirade about how much I don't like technology and communication. I was like, oh, actually I do really like, and I always knew I liked my own company, but I like it more than I ever really realized before I started writing it down. And I do need to take breaks from these things. Like I had to take a huge break from the apps and from the blog for a while because I was like, I can't keep talking about these experiences because it's getting a bit too much. And I've learned that regardless of like what these guys think of you, you have to value yourself first. And it sounds so cheesy, but it is true. Like I need to have time to love myself and then maybe someone else will be there, but maybe they won't. And I don't really care. You know, you need to try and like be like, these people are not good and don't settle just because it's a big, bad single world in Hong Kong.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And you do need to do that. You've got to, you know, and it does sound cheesy, but it's true. You've got to feel happy in your own skin with who you are before somebody else can fall in love with you.
Yeah. Before you can even be interested in them. Like you need to know what you want to do and the way things you like. And
absolutely. And, you know, if you stay single till you're 53, you can fill your life with so many jobs and things to do that you just don't notice that you're single because you're so busy. And then you get anxiety. Oh, who am I talking about now?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, I'm only kidding. But I think I'm not. I think I have done that. Like, this is a bit of a therapy session now, but I really do think that I filled that void of not having somebody in my life by doing a podcast and writing a book and teaching full time and running trips and helping others and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like I'm piling it all on myself. And I think that's perhaps what I've learned is that I shouldn't necessarily do that. I should be more comfortable just being alone.
Yeah, it is important to be alone. And it's something I think a lot of people don't know how to do.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like, how do you be alone? Like every night or every day? And it's fine. Like once you get used to it. And I mean, I've been single for a really long time. So it's just a part of who I am. So I think trying to fit someone in many ways is quite scary as well. Because like, oh, even if I do meet my person, I'll probably only have time for him once, maybe twice a week. You know, like with everything else that's going on. Where do I squeeze him in? How do I prioritize him? What if I give up all my time and then actually I don't really like him that much after all?
I'm swiping on all these guys that I think look more like my grandpa, but they're only in their 50s. I'm just like, what the hell? Okay, all right, I'll swipe right. I'll give it a try. Come on. Oh, my God. And, you know, when guys in their late 30s or early 40s message me, it's just like, what the hell? You know, what are you doing? But then what am I doing still swiping on 40-somethings? Okay, I've got to go home and change my whatever it's called.
We all do that, like to change the age bracket. Like I'm not getting swipes, go way younger and way older.
What are your hopes for your future, Aisling?
In terms of like singledom?
Yeah, or, you know, do you dream of the white picket fence and the 2 kids and the dog and the car and the husband and all of that? Or are you...
I don't want natural children. Like I don't want the demolished vagina that goes along with it.
It bounces back.
I'm glad it does.
Don't be too scared. Oh, for all you singles out there who have no kids, your vagina will be fine. Don't listen to it.
I've always wanted to adopt and foster children anyway.
In Africa?
Maybe. Wherever.
Oh, sorry, I'm being silly now.
No, it's okay. It's good. But no, in terms of like meeting someone, like I haven't even really thought about what that would look like because it seems so unrealistic.
I think you need to do it. I think you need to create a vision board.
I have a vision board.
I made a vision board like 15 years ago, pile of shit. Nothing's happened. Nothing's happened yet. Oh, hang on. Maybe I had write a book on there.
Yeah. I made one last year and I put like writing, dollars. I don't know why dollars were on it actually. But anyway, I went to America and I started writing. So
oh, cool.
2 of them have come up. And no smoking. I'll put that up there as well. Stop smoking.
No, they can work. And I'm sure I've got other things on mine. That's just being totally negative.
There, I also put like a little cottage and like a Volkswagen, you know those little camper vans? I think they're so cute. I can't even drive. I just want
you can't drive.
No. Like a Volkswagen little Beetle kind of, I don't even know what they're called.
Get one of the Beetle camper vans so you can just go sleep in it. You don't need to drive it. You can just camp out. Yeah. You can have dates in it.
Yeah, and I do hate real camping, so it could be a nice alternative. But yeah, that and more writing. Now that I've like done this blog, it's given me a lot of confidence to be like, oh, people do like the way I write. And it's not like...
You are such a fantastic writer.
Thank you.
You should definitely do more. And I think you should do your stand-up comedy. I really do. In fact, I think we should do it together.
Yeah. That could be really funny, actually. For like a charity gig. I think we'll be laughing if no one else
You're never going to be like, oh my God, they're on drugs. What's going on? No, just like, I wish they'd shut up. Anyway, Aisling, I just want to thank you so much. I haven't had so much fun, and this is my funniest podcast without a shadow of a doubt. I'm sorry, Hazel, with the IVF podcast. That's my second funniest. If you want to go and listen to that, folks. But thank you for coming to see me and good luck with your dating. And thanks for sharing your tips. And if people want to find your blog, how can they find it?
It's called bumblingtinder.com.
Bumblingtinder.com. And for my listeners out there, if you know anyone who's struggling in the online dating world and needs a bit of a laugh and would like to listen to this podcast, please can you share it with them? And if you could go on to iTunes and rate and review us, it will help take my podcast up on the iTunes ranking, and it will also help Aisling get more people to her blog and help her become more famous as a writer. So, yeah, woo. So if you guys could do that, that would be amazing. Thanks very much. It's been so much fun.
Thank you. It has been loads of fun.
Yeah,
Thanks.
see ya. Confidants, if you're living in Hong Kong and you'd like to hear more of Aisling's story, then please come to our live show. Aisling's going to be my guest at Hong Kong Podfest, Hong Kong's first podcast festival. It's going to be held at the Fringe Club on Monday, May the 27th at 7 p.m. Tickets will be on sale soon, and if you'd like to get tickets to see Aisling and I chat live on stage about Tinder and tarot, then please sign up to @HK Podfest on Instagram or Facebook so you can get information about ticket sales. They're going to be on sale very soon. We hope to see you there at HK Podfest. Hong Kong Confidential is brought to you by Teresa's Turkish Towels. Teresa imports the finest 100% Turkish cotton towels that dry very quickly, making them perfect for Hong Kong's humid climate. Say goodbye to the traditional smelly and stinky towels and try the colourful and fresh selections available online or in Teresa's Wan Chai store. Use the promo code CONFIDENTIAL online or mention this podcast when you visit in person to receive $100 off your entire order when you order 2 or more towels. With 100% satisfaction guaranteed or your money back, the only thing you've got to lose are the musty smells that permeate traditional terry towels. Visit www.hkturkish.com in order to get the address and directions to Teresa's semi-hidden location. So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.